George Gomez is a very, very driven engineer who is a workaholic, who, once he decides he's working on a project, lets nothing stand in the way of him getting from point A to point B. George is one of the most clever mechanical toy designers I've ever met.
I did play a little bit before I got there. I had sort of been hooked by Terminator 2, Steve Ritchie game, and I got the office across the hall from Steve Ritchie, who had this reputation as just a Satan, you know, to put it bluntly. I mean, he was a wild man. Steve is one of these guys that does everything full bore. There is no half doing anything. He was a character, and I was in some way in awe but scared of the stories. 3 o'clock in the afternoon, he would close the door to his office, crank up his guitar amp, play rock and roll guitar licks so loud that with my door closed, it was like Queen was in my room playing. I remember one day I told Steve, for my birthday, I told an operator, you know, find me a pristine Terminator 2. I mean, it's got to be perfect. I don't want it if it's not perfect. And this guy found one for me. He said, hey, it's going to be expensive. And I said, I don't care. So I bought it for myself for my birthday one year. This game was sort of pivotal, where it really got me thinking about, oh, you know what, I could do this. I could design this stuff. And I told Steve Ritchie, I said, man, I just found, and he goes, man, you're an idiot. In his game, and he's like, you spent what? You know, for a Terminator 2? Oh, God, I wish you would have told me that. I would have sold you mine. It's classic Steve.
Larry DeMar is a very talented, incredibly bright game person who has an innate feel for what people like and dislike while they're playing a game. And pinball would not be a tenth of as good as it is if it were not for Larry DeMar.
Management had a lot of respect for his opinion and his technology. I could say, you know, to management, this is the way it has to be, but, you know, they'd check with Larry. And if Larry agreed, that's the way it had to be. So I think because of so many, you know, the thing about Larry is he spent so much time there. He was so successful, and he was so successful repeatedly, that is where their confidence came from, right? If you step up to the bat and every second time you hit it out of the park, you know, somebody's paying attention. When he championed us, and that's his role in Pinball 2000 was essentially to keep the wolves at bay.
That it was just a awesome talent pool. The individuals just were phenomenal, and you can just look at the patents that were issued to Pin 2000, and a tremendous amount of patents, and you see the same names over and over again on these patents, and it was fun.
Well, Neil, I like Neil. He says what's on his mind, and the one thing that everybody always picks up on is that he's kind of a demotivational speaker. I mean, he comes in, and Neil's like, it's almost like he really tries to piss you off, just because he knows that he employs some of the most talented people in the industry. And if he can just piss them off just a little bit, that they'll work a little bit harder and do like a little bit cooler thing and make him a little bit more money. Well, there was one time I was wandering around Midway at the end of Medieval Madness, and I ran into Eugene Jarvis in the hall, and we were talking. And at the time, Brian had a Medieval Madness put over in the cafeteria at Midway. And at the time, they were still, the same company. And so anyway, we were talking, and Eugene was like, yeah, everybody plays this Medieval Madness game, and it's really cool that there's one over here, and there are people always playing it, and blah, blah, blah. And then Neil comes walking over. And, we start talking about the game, and Eugene's talking about it, and Neil's comment was, yeah, you know what, it was good, but it wasn't good enough. I mean, that's just an example of how and it's like, I didn't go running back to my office going, yeah, if I just did this, and that, then it would be good enough. Because it's like, by that time I'm like, okay, that's just Neil, that's just how he is. And I think a lot of people understand it. But at the same time, I enjoyed working for the guy, because I think he cared about his business, and I think he enjoyed being in the game business. That's a one common thing for everybody who probably ever worked at Williams, or who was still there at the end. There were people who loved working on games.
You don't get to be the king. You don't get to own 70% of the world market in pinball without some historical precedent, And so I've said this many times that there was a level of pride and an expected level of quality amongst the design staff there that really came from our legacy. And John Papaduke, one of the designers, used to say that the ghosts of the great designers walk the halls at night, and it was really true in some essence, in some way. I've told this story many times, but the fact that in that building, over the course of 50 some years, guys like us had done what we did, and been always the best at what they did. And so, Harry Williams and the Sam Stearns of the world, and the Iggy Wolvertons and all of these other guys, Hank Ross, all these guys that worked in that building. When it was united, it was this, it was that. It evolved, and yet the company grew, acquired, became other things, and yet that building is where those guys had built everything from shuffle alleys, to Steve Kordak, the dean of the game designers, if you will. This guy was still there, came to work every day. I don't know how old he was when we were all learning AutoCAD, and in '93 that we were making the transition from paper to computers, and Steve went to class with us. Here's this guy. He's the guy that put the flippers at the bottom of the playfield. So I think that and Kordak was a guy that could look at, had been doing games for so long, making games for so long, that he literally could walk into your room and in a 1 minute discussion would throw out a revelation like it was no big deal. He wasn't one of these guys walking around going, look at this great idea I'm going to give you. He was one of these guys going, if you move that 1/8 of an inch, this is going to be way better, and it would work. And he would so I think that level of talent, that level of quality, control, and the aspirations to quality made Williams, the engineering department, an exciting and tremendous place to be.